Good evening, everybody. As you come in, let's have a quarantine roll call. Just shout out your city, where you are. Let me know how you're doing, what you're up to. How are things going for you? I'm excited about the opportunity to talk to you tonight, get to hang out with you for a little while. And I'm glad that you're here. So here's what I need you to do. We've got those that are joining us on YouTube, on Periscope, on Twitter, and on Facebook. So whatever platform you're on, I ask that you would share it to your platform. Go ahead and text about 3 people. Let them know that Life Talks with Dr. Ricky Allmon is on Leadership After Dark. It's going to be an amazing conversation tonight. Somebody's on from Chi-Town. I hear you. Come on, just shout out your city as you come on. Those who are on Facebook, I would ask that you please share this on your Facebook so that others who may be interested can come on. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Thank you for joining us. I hope your week has been going well. I hope you're looking forward to a great weekend. I believe you've got great possibilities ahead of you. And so I'm excited to share in those possibilities and hopefully inspire you as you move into destiny and possibilities in your life. I'm ready to get into this. I'm just going to take about 60 more seconds. I know we're scheduled to come on at 8:30, and I came on a little bit earlier tonight. So I'm going to give you a little time to come in. Again, those that are on Facebook, share this on your Facebook timeline. And while you're sharing it, go ahead and give it the thumbs up and like it. Those who are on YouTube, I ask that you like this. I ask that you subscribe to the Ricky Allmon YouTube channel and share this. Those that are on Twitter, I ask that you like it. On Periscope, listen in. But I'm ready to get into our conversation tonight. So come on in wherever you are. Come out, come out. I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight. It promises to be an amazing one, and I'm glad that you are a part of it. So, again, I'm Dr. Ricky Allmon. Welcome to Life Talks Leadership After Dark. I want you to share this conversation again. Start a watch party if you're on Facebook so we can get into this as people gather in. I know it's Thursday. You're preparing for Friday, even if you're quarantined. I'm sure you've got some plans you're looking forward to for the weekend. But while you're preparing for the weekend, I want to help prepare you for your future. I want to add some things to your life that I believe will help you once this quarantine is over. Hey, Kathy, how are you? Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm so glad to have all of you all with us here tonight. This is going to be a great conversation. Those of you who are entrepreneurs, consultants, pastors, organizational leaders, social media influencers, digital content creators, educators, I want you to take a quick moment to join a Facebook group that's designed for those who desire to maximize their potential, mobilize their purpose, and multiply their productivity. If you look in the description of whatever platform you're on, you'll see something that says join this group. It's called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. It will be streamed. It deals with life and leadership in the digital age. And so I want to encourage you to join that group. I have a conversation now every Saturday at 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time with my brother, Stephen Thurston. And so he and I together represent over 50 years of experience and expertise in organizational, entrepreneurial, and pastoral leadership. So mark your calendar, set you a reminder, and join us at 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time for The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. It will be streamed. Also, on Sunday nights, I have a conversation on Instagram exclusively at 7 p.m. with my brother, Bishop Henry Bolden, who pastors New Home Family Church in East New Orleans. So remember that. If you forget it, go back and re-listen to this broadcast. But I want to get into this conversation. Brandon, good to see you here. Kathy, good to see you. There are others that are joining. As you join, please participate in the quarantine roll call. Let me know where you're joining from so I can shout you out. I'm so glad that you're here tonight. And I want to make sure that I recognize you since you're taking the time to hang out with us. So I'm ready to get into this tonight. I think we've got some great content to share with you. And I want you to get everything that you came for. So welcome to Life Talks with Dr. RickyAllmon, Leadership After Dark. Tonight, we're going to be talking about leadership in the time of change. I believe, Stephen, you are hilarious. He said he's joining from Bali tonight. I'm sure we all wish we were. I believe that the most critical component of leadership, especially in these times, is understanding the times. I believe that's the most critical component of leadership. If you're going to lead in any generation or at any time, it is imperative that you understand the times that you're leading in. There is nothing worse than someone trying to lead in a time or lead a generation that they don't understand. So it is critical to understand the times that you're leading in and to make sure that you are effective in those times. I think one of the most critical things that you have to understand when it comes to understanding the times you're leading in is that yesterday's systems can't facilitate tomorrow's strategies. What you did yesterday may have been good, but I can almost guarantee you it was good for yesterday. It will not have a high level of productivity for today. And so I want to ask you how much of what you're doing in your life is producing the results that you want for your future. That's a very critical question for you to answer tonight. How much of what you're doing in your life is producing the results that you want for your future? So tonight, as we talk about leadership in a time of change, I want to begin a conversation that we're going to be having over the next couple of weeks. And I want to talk about the 5 keys to productivity. I want to give you the 5 keys to productivity. As we deal with leading in a time of change, I want to give you the 5 keys to productivity. I attempt to be a well-rounded reader. I consider myself a voracious reader. I try to read at least 5 books a month, along with any other ongoing reading that I do on a daily basis. But I attempt to read 5 books a month, and I try to span across multiple literary genres. So I try to read in poetry and philosophy. I try to read in psychology and sociology. I try to read in leadership and personal growth. I try to read in theology and spiritual development. So I try to read across different literary genres. And so with that, I'm not only seeking to be well informed, but I'm seeking to be well balanced so that I can articulate whatever the thoughts are that I have in whatever context they need to be articulated in the most expressive way possible. And so one of my favorite literary genres is poetry. And one of my favorite poets is a poet philosopher by the name of Khalil Gibran. And here's what Khalil Gibran says that I believe encapsulates the heart of a leader. Khalil Gibran said the significance of a person is not in what they attain, it's in what they long to attain. Did you hear what I just said? Khalil Gibran, this poet philosopher, said the significance of a person is not in what they attain, it's in what they long to attain. In other words, the true measure and the true value of who you are as a leader, and shall I say, as an individual, is what is it that you are striving for beyond where you are right now? Do you consider yourself to have arrived? Do you feel like you've reached the zenith of everything that life has to offer you? If you feel that way, then you're just taking up space and sucking up air that may be better used by somebody that still has a drive, that still has a vision, that still has a passion. But I believe if you're on this conversation, you're like Khalil Gibran. You believe that there's something greater that lies ahead for your life. And so what I'm going to be sharing over the next couple of weeks as I talk about leadership in a time of change, and it is quite obvious that we are in an inevitable, irreversible time of change. One of the constants that I've been stating over the past few weeks is that from this day forward, we will never be able to say normal without putting the adjective new in front of it. I would even dare to say that everything has changed. Wouldn't you say that? I mean, think about it. Most of us are under a stay-in-place order, except for those states that may be reopening or rolling out a reopening. We've been quarantined. We've had to find creative ways to exercise, and most people are working virtual. You've dealt with Zoom meetings and reunions and birthday parties to infinitum ad nauseum. So I think all of us can say that things have changed. The question is, how do we navigate this change, and how do we lead during this time of change? In other words, change is not a time for you to just survive. Change is actually designed for you to thrive. It's an opportunity for you to go beyond what's been to explore what shall be. You ought to be thankful for change. I mean, think about it. If you never changed, if you never evolved, physically, biologically, and physiologically, you would have never went from crawling to walking. You would have never went from walking to riding a bike. You'd have never went from riding a bike to driving a car. Think about that. It's evolution that reveals the rest of who you are. You ought to type that word on the screen right now, whatever platform you're on, YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, just type the word evolution. Because that is the primary characteristic of a leader. A leader is one who's committed to evolving. They refuse to remain like they've been, no matter how comfortable they are being that. They want to become more. Thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Kathy. Evolution. You've got to evolve. You've got to grow. So tonight, I'm going to begin to share with you what I consider to be 5 keys to productivity. And I'm going to give you the first 2 keys tonight. So that means you got to come back next week. So go ahead and set your reminder right now, 8:30 Central Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern Time. I see some of my East Coast friends on here. 6:30 Pacific Time. Go ahead and set a reminder or a calendar reminder right now so that you can meet me back here next week. Let me give you the first 2 keys to productivity for your life. And I'm going to let you go about and eat your dinner. The first key to be highly productive in your life is competence. If you're a copious note taker, put that on the screen. The first key to productivity in your life is competence. What does that mean, Dr. Allmon? I'm so glad you asked. Competence means, are you ready for this? Because it's not the definition you think. Competence means you do less to accomplish more. Yep, that's what I said. You thought competence was you just leaving it all on the dance floor. I'm going to work my fingers to the bone. And I like that attitude. I like that work ethic. But I shared with you, I think it was last week during our life talks, when we talked about the DNA of a dinosaur slayer, or maybe the week before that when we were talking about don't dance with dinosaurs. I share with you that the key to productivity is not just working hard, but working smart. It's not just being intentional about what you're doing, but being strategic with your intention. It's not just saying this is what I'm going to do. In other words, here it is. It's the difference in effectiveness and efficiency. You have some people who are effective, but they're not efficient. They're good at what they're doing, but they're not doing it in the best way that they could. You heard what I said. They're good at what they're doing, but they're not doing it in the best way that they can. They're effective, but they're not efficient. And so if you're going to be competent, you're not just seeking to work hard, you're seeking to work smart. You're not just being intentional, but you're being strategic with your intention. I like what Dr. Howard Hendricks said. Dr. Howard Hendricks said, the secret of concentration is elimination. In order for you to focus on what you ought to be doing, you're going to have to ignore what you shouldn't be doing that wants to waste the time and the energy that's necessary for what you ought to be doing. So Dr. Howard Hendricks said the secret of concentration is elimination. And that's very important to understand because as quiet as it's kept, what you don't know can actually hurt you. When we talk about competence, there are 4 levels to competence. The lowest level of competence is what's known as unconscious incompetence. That means you don't know that you don't know. I often said that whoever said ignorance was bliss was obviously where you fill in the blank. You get it. They didn't know what they didn't know. So the lowest level of competence is unconscious incompetence. You don't know that you don't know. The second level of competence is called conscious incompetence. You go from not knowing that you don't know to now knowing that you don't know. But you can't stop there. It's not enough to say, well, at least I can admit what I don't know. Well, that's not going to make you productive. You've got to go to the third level of competence, which is called conscious competence, or when you know that you know. Now, can I tell you something? Get a little closer. Get a little bit closer. Can I tell you something? This is the stage when people often abort the best for their lives. You say, Dr. Allmon, how is that the case? How can me knowing what I know be the stage that I abort what's best for my life? I mean, I'm proficient. I'm skilled now. I know what I'm doing. I'm utilizing my potential. How can this hinder me from the best for me? Because there's one more stage beyond conscious competence. Are you ready for this? It's called unconscious competence. What's unconscious competence, you ask? Unconscious competence is when you go from knowing to becoming. You got it. In other words, you go from good to great. You go from just being able to do it to actually personifying what you do. So let me give you the 4 steps in review for the 4 levels of competence. The lowest level of competence is unconscious incompetence. You don't know that you don't know. The second level of competence is conscious incompetence. You know that you don't know. The third level of competence is conscious competence. You know that you know. But then the fourth and highest level of competence is called unconscious competence, when now you go from knowing to becoming. Is there anything that you do so well that you don't have to think about it? Maybe there's a favorite dish that's been passed down from generation to generation in your family, and everybody comes to your house at Thanksgiving to eat that particular entree. You know why? Because you've reached that highest level of unconscious competence. As a matter of fact, why don't you type on the screen, since you're being such an engaging audience, why don't you type on the screen the name of somebody you can think about in history that reached that highest level of unconscious competence, where the reason we remember them is not just because of what they did, we remember them because of who they were. So you think of names like Gandhi, you think of names like Mother Teresa, you think of individuals like Martin Luther King Jr., and you can type some names. There are some people that you know. No matter what context or sphere of society they're in, there are people you know who reach the highest level of competence, which is unconscious competence. They went from doing something to becoming something. Okay, let me make my inquiry more personal. What is it that you want to become? What is it that you're doing right now that you actually want to become it? You want to reach a place where it's who you are. It's not just something that you're doing. Somebody put here Denzel Washington. I hear you. Somebody put Curtis McKinney, which is obviously somebody related to them, Jill. That's a good thing. Somebody put Harold Washington and other names. Harriet Tubman. There was just a great movie about her called Harriet. Somebody put JFK. That highest level of competence. So understand, competence, watch this, competence is when you do less to accomplish more. You say, how does that work? Because when it says do less, that means you stop wasting your time on things and situations and people that don't produce the best for your life. That's how you reach that highest level of competence, where you go from doing to being. The names that have been given tonight of individuals who represent unconscious competence are individuals who didn't waste who they were in areas that did not demonstrate their core values. They didn't waste who they were in areas that were not their passion. And so often we waste so much of our potential by doing things that, though they may be good things, they're not great things, because they're not the things that bring the best out of us. Do you know what a genius is? What do you think a genius is? If I was to ask you for the name of a genius, I know most of us would think about Albert Einstein or some other individual, Thomas Edison, and the list would go on. But can I really tell you who a genius is? Because you may discover that you're closer to a genius than you think. As a matter of fact, you could be looking a genius in the mirror every morning. A genius is simply somebody who focuses on their greatest strengths and delegates their weaknesses. You need to write that definition down. I'm talking about competence. A genius is somebody who focuses on their greatest strengths and they delegate everything else. We don't know how well Albert Einstein could read, but we know he was phenomenal with mathematical equations. So he brought other people around him to do other things with him while he concentrated on the best within him. That's what I'm trying to encourage you to do. In this first key of the 5 keys to productivity, I'm trying to encourage you to focus on the best within you. What does that mean? That means only do what you're great at doing and then bring other people around you to assist you in doing the things that you don't do well. The mark of wisdom, maturity, and emotional security is when you do what you know you do well, even if it may not get the attention of those who you're trying to attract to you. Just keep doing it anyway. That's how you know wisdom. That's how you know somebody's mature. That's how you know somebody has emotional security. You ever seen somebody doing something they knew they didn't do well just because they were trying to impress somebody that didn't care about them in the first place? That is the worst thing in the world. I was going to use another word, but I'm not. I was going to say that's the dumbest thing. But do what you do well. And don't waste time on doing anything that you don't do well. And I'll tell you this. When you know what you're called to do, start doing it even when you don't have everything you need. So this is Life Talks, and we call this Leadership After Dark because we do it on Thursday evenings at 8:30. And it's a little dark in here. You know why? Because when I started this video podcast, I didn't have the proper lighting. And if I can give you full disclosure, I'm working tonight with this little light right here. But guess what? That's not the only light I'm going to have. By next Thursday, I've already ordered it. It's been on back order because of quarantine. I've got a huge television studio light that's on the way, and I'm going to be lit up. So even though it is dark, it won't look like I'm in the dark. What I'm trying to show you is how genius works. Do what you know how to do, even when you don't have everything you need to do it. Because if you believe in who you are, and if you know what you're great at doing, you'll inevitably attract to you everything else you need. Okay, let me get you out of here so you can get to dinner. So the first key for productivity in your life is you got to have competence. Do less to accomplish more. Then lastly, I'm going to give you the second key. You got to come back next week to get the third and the fourth key. I'm only giving you 2 keys to productivity tonight. The second key to productivity is called courage. Second key to productivity is called courage. Courage is the power to move forward. That's what courage is. Courage is the power to move forward. Listen to what Jim Kouzes said. Jim Kouzes said, only those leaders who act boldly in the time of crisis and challenge are willingly followed. Let me read it again. Only those who act boldly in the time of crisis and challenge are willingly followed. If you're going to be productive, you've got to have courage. Courage gives you the power to move forward. One of the essential traits of a leader is that they love progress, but they hate status quo. Show me an authentic leader, and I'll show you somebody who's always challenging the process. Show me an authentic leader, and I'll show you somebody that says, yeah, that was good, but we can be greater. Yeah, that was wonderful, but we can do it better. They're always reaching for something more than what they have. So understand this. In order for any leader to activate courage, they must be willing to step beyond their comfort zone and seize opportunity. What is the Latin word? carpe diem, CARPDIEM, which means to seize the day, to seize the moment. If you're going to be productive, it's not enough to be competent. You've got to have courage. You've got to be willing to seize the moment. Christopher, I'm sorry, I didn't spell that author's name. The last name is Kouzes, Kouzes, Kouzes. Thank you for putting that there so I could make sure you had the right name so you can look him up. Listen to what Max Dupree said. Max Dupree said an unwillingness to accept risk has swamped more leaders than anything I can think of. Wow. An unwillingness to accept risk has sabotaged more leaders than anything else. That's what Max Dupree said. You know why? Because you can't lead without taking risk. And you can't take risk without courage. Here's what a lot of people suffer from that hinders them from productivity. Are y'all tracking with me? Are you all getting this? Is this good to you? If you're on Facebook, go ahead and release a bunch of hearts right now, a bunch of thumbs up. Give me some 100s. If you're on YouTube, go ahead, tap the screen. Let me know that you're getting some. If you're on Periscope, go ahead and release a heartbeat. If you will, give me a social media heartbeat. Let me know you're getting something out of this. For the closing moments we have together, I want to talk to you about risk lock. Have you ever heard of gridlock? If you live in a major city like I do, like a Chicago or New York or places where there are millions of people, then it's not uncommon on a daily basis and throughout the day to be on a major thoroughfare on an interstate and have gridlock. You know what gridlock is. Gridlock is when you know where you want to go, but you can't get to where you want to go because there are vehicles around you stopping you from getting there. Well, risk lock is the same way. Risk lock is when somebody knows where they want to go, but they're afraid to take the risk. In other words, they see obstacles instead of opportunities. They see problems instead of possibilities. They see challenge instead of change. I don't want to get in your business. Oh, yes, I do want to get in your business. I'm talking to somebody tonight that's had risk lock. Yeah, you know what exit you're trying to get to in your life. Yeah, you know the destination that you want as your destiny, but you're afraid to do something different. You're afraid to try something better. So I want to encourage you tonight to break the lock. Yeah. Break the risk lock in your life. Just step out. Let me tell you this. Average leaders fear stepping out into a new opportunity. But you know what great leaders fear? Great leaders fear missing out on a new opportunity. Which one are you? Are you average or are you great? If you're an average leader, you just maintain what you got, but you don't try to reach for what you want. But if you're a great leader, you say, oh no, it's time for me to go. I gotta break out. I gotta do something different. I gotta do something better. There is more prepared for me. I gotta find who I'm talking to tonight on Facebook, on YouTube, on Periscope, on Twitter. It's time for you to break the lock, break risk lock. Stop fearing stepping out and start fearing missing out. You know, we just made fear a bad word, but fear is not all bad. It all depends on how you use fear. Because when your fear is a fear of missing out, that's a good fear. That fear says, I'm afraid of sitting right here and dying. I'm afraid of not seizing that next opportunity. We only talk about fear in the negative. We never talk about fear in the positive. But there is a positive fear that says, I fear not moving forward. I fear being stuck in a rut. I fear being left behind. I fear not reaching my potential. So because I fear not moving to where I want to go, then I'm going to let my faith get me there. Oh, that's good right there. Because I fear not reaching where I want to go, then I'm going to let my faith get me there. In closing tonight, there's an old adage that says, you've only failed when you fail to try. As we've been in this quarantine, and I've got other responsibilities with a local church that I serve in and different things that I do. And so my day is pretty much runs like a regular day. The only difference is I'm quarantined. But about a week into this COVID-19 experience, I realized I had a responsibility to those that were connected to me beyond the church where I serve and the people that are immediately around me. I had a responsibility to share with those beyond my personal space. And yes, it takes time. And yes, I have to prepare. And yes, I'm learning new things about technology. I had a glitch tonight when I started, and I'm just, confession is good for the soul. I've sort of got a scene that's set up. And so it was supposed to show the title slide of the show. And then it was supposed to give you a commercial about the Life Lessons book that I wrote last year. And then it was supposed to take you into a countdown. And by mistake, my hand hit the wrong key on the computer and all of that went away. So when you started watching this show, if you were here at the beginning, you were like, what is Dr. Allmon doing? Because things happen. But guess what? You only fail when you fail to try. So I didn't let that stop me. I kept moving forward because I have a responsibility to share something with you. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. Life will throw you curveballs. Life sometimes will throw you in a ditch. Life sometimes will throw you overboard the ship. Life will lead you down some unexpected paths, take you into some uncomfortable places, and put you around some uncomfortable people. But that's no reason for you to stop. Keep on getting up. Keep on trying. Keep on moving forward. The last thing I want to give you tonight, as I end this conversation, I'm so glad you joined me. I hope you'll share this conversation on your platform so that other people that are connected to you, others that are in your leadership and life circle can benefit from this. But I want to give you the 3 acts of courage that you need to be productive. That's what I want to end with tonight. So get a writing utensil, get something to write on, go to the notes section on your iPad or your Samsung tablet or wherever you keep your notes. You need to write these 3 things down because there are 3 things you need, 3 acts of courage that are necessary for you to be productive. Are you ready for them? I'm about to give them to you. You might ought to invite a friend in to get this. You might ought to tell somebody, look, Dr. Allman's been on for about 36 minutes, but he's about to say the most important thing that he said all night. Are you ready? I want to give you the 3 acts of courage. Here we go. Number 1, learn to say no. I said it. The greatest act of courage is knowing when to say no. You can't keep saying yes to everything and be ready for the right thing. The first act of courage is learning to say no. You can't keep saying yes to everything and be ready for the right thing. Every opportunity is not a great opportunity. And I'm really talking to somebody. I'm preaching to somebody tonight because you want to please everybody. You want to placate everybody. You want to appease everybody. You want everybody to like you. And that's a wonderful aspiration. But the reality is you're called to be great. You're called to be productive. You're called to do something definitive with your life that will change everything in your life and around your life. And you can't reach that point If you just saying yes to everything without doing an assessment as to whether or not it can produce the best for your life and whether or not it's using the best in your life. So learn to say no. That's the first act of courage. You got your pen ready? You got your notes ready? Here's the second act of courage. The second act of courage is learn to face reality. Don't live in denial. Don't become delusional. Yeah, I know you got faith. I know you believing it's going to get better. But listen, while it's getting better, you got to deal with whatever's in front of you that's making it worse. Don't cop out. Don't back up. Lean into it. Yeah. When you lean into that challenge, you're leaning into your future. When you lean into that confrontation, you're leaning into your future. No, don't let it get the best of you. No, and please don't let it define you. But don't you dare cower from it. Don't you dare run from it. You know why? Because it's designed to bring the best out of you. Yet it may feel bad, but it's going to produce good. Y'all know I'm a preacher, so I can't resist. And I haven't quoted a scripture this whole conversation, but I gotta let one out. Romans 8:28 says, "For we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them who are called according to his purpose." You gotta get this. It's going to work out for your good. Listen, it may never feel good or become good. That's not the promise of Romans 8:28. The only thing Paul says in Romans 8:28 is that it's going to work to an ultimate good. In other words, the thing that's working toward your good, are you ready for this? May never become good itself. The person that's going to help you reach your good may never want good for you. But God promises that no matter how it feels or what it looks like, because of what he put in you, it's going to work for your good. Okay, I preach now. I'm sorry. Let me give you the third and final act of courage. Have y'all enjoyed this tonight? We're done already. Time flies when you're having fun. We are done already. Let me give you the last act of courage, and I'll bid you adieu, arrivederci, sayonara, and I'll see you next week at the same time for Life Talks with Dr. RickyAllmon, Leadership After Dark, at 8:30 p.m. This is starting to feel like a little television show now. All right, here it is. So the first act of courage is learn to say no. Every opportunity is not a great opportunity. The second act of courage is learn to face reality. Don't live in denial. My brother Stephen, thank you, sir. Kiva, is she here? How are you? Thank you for being here. The second act of courage is learn to face reality. Don't live in denial. And then the third act of courage is learn to dream. So the first act of courage is learn to say no. Every opportunity is not a great opportunity. The second act of courage is learn to face reality. Don't live in denial. But then the third and final act of courage is learn to dream. Don't allow problems to diminish your potential. There is more in you and there is more for you than what you see around you. Did you hear what I said? There is more in you and there is more for you than what you see around you. And so learn how to dream. Learn, it's called vision. Get a vision for your life, a vision for your future. Listen, I'm so glad you joined me tonight. I hope you enjoyed these first two keys to productivity. I'm going to share two more with you next week, and then we'll probably share one or two more the week after that. So tell everybody about Life Talks with Dr. RickyAllmon, Leadership After Dark, every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. Central, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Also, Meet me and my brother Stephen Thurston, who's on here. Thank you, man, for coming through, supporting, and shouting out on here. Meet me and my brother Stephen Thurston on Saturdays at 11:30 a.m. Central, for The Revolution will not be televised. It will be streamed. It's a conversation about life and leadership in the digital age. Also, before you get off tonight, go over and join the Facebook group. We have a Facebook group where we'll be sharing more content. Answer the 3 questions. I changed the 3 questions from an essay to multiple choices to make it easy for you. So I think the link should be somewhere in your description that you're looking at, especially if you're on Facebook or YouTube. So go ahead, click that link, go over and join the group. And then on Sunday nights at 7 p.m., me and my brother, Bishop Henry Bolden from New Home Family of Churches there in New Orleans, Louisiana. Yeah, he's a NOLA guy. He joins me at 7 p.m. on Instagram. And then on Instagram every day, Monday through Friday. If you're on Instagram, I do a segment called Ask Dr. Allmon. So I'm doing that in between all the work that I have to do, in between my responsibilities with the local church that I serve in, because I want to add to your life. Make sure you're following me on all social media platforms at RickyAllmon. And if you really enjoyed this tonight, then just pay attention right there and just send some encouragement. That's all you got to do. Pay attention. If you got something out of this tonight, send me some encouragement and tell me, hey, look, I really enjoyed this and I got something out of this. Get ready for next week. I'm going to be light camera action next week. This is the last week for this light. I'm going to have a big light next week. We're going to be ready for this. Thank you for joining me. Have a great night. God bless you. I love you.